Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, we're continuing with our weekly shirim on the Ramchal's Adir BaMarom on the Idra Rabbah. And what we've been accessing until now is the Ramchal preparing us for what limud is. He's teaching us about why, when Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai felt that the time had come to awaken the rectifications necessary for that point of reality, in spite of the fact that the world wasn't deserving, nevertheless, the tzaddik had to do something. So we're learning the secret of what the tzaddik does, which is they leave town and they open up pockets and columns of air that draw down the light of Gan Eden. And in those places, the rectifications can take shape. And those rectifications enable a person to draw down the light of redemption into their lives as it is right now, to reframe the ordinary with the blinding light of the extraordinary that rests at the heart of it. This is the secret of the Machatz de Chakla, that they were going out to thresh the field, they were going out to cut through the thicket and the overgrowth that came to block that which was most apparent to us, like the Ramchal describes in his Hakdama to Masil Sisharim. The Machatz de Chakla are all there to remove that which has grown over and covered over that which is always ready at hand and present. That's what concealment is. It's the middle period prior to the revelation of how the beginning and the end are unified together. And it's that place where we still can't quite see the unity of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore we have to enter into battle. That this world is a battle, like the Ramchal says in Mitzvah Sharm as well. It's a battle. A person is thrown into a battle with bullets whizzing by their heads, and it's like a person who's found in the maze and they're lost, and the only thing to do is orient ourselves upwards towards the words written by the tzaddikim who made their way out of the maze itself. And so Rabbi Shimon is revealing to us what it means to encounter this realm of the Machatz de Chakla with the Chavraya Kadisha. Rabbi Shimon is entering in to perform the unifications and the rectifications, which have to take shape, but it's only with the Chavraya, it's only with friendship, it's only with connectivity. And this connectivity gives birth to the notion of argumentation. Once there's two individuals, now there's an idea that is going to be reflected against the other person's perception. The milchamas hamind, the battle of the mind, is taking place whether I'm learning on my own or whether I'm studying with another person as well. But ultimately, whether a person is learning on their own to clarify a piece of wisdom that's drawn down from Gan Eden to apply it to their lives, or whether a person is encountering the battle with other people by way of sharing the ideas and reflecting on the ideas, the milchama of clarification of the mind and thinking is going to be the pathway necessary for drawing down the light of Gan Eden. And what the Ramchal is helping us understand is that we're here trying to draw more light down. And ultimately, we're confronting the fact that now we have to enter into battle. And so battle always implies to us the fact that there's opposition and there's a battle between those two sides. But what the Ramchal has been explaining to us, as rooted in the realm of Rashbi v'Chavarov, is that battle and encounter and collision doesn't mean seeking out the destruction of another side. It means hislahatos ha'oros, that the lights are concealed within themselves. They're contained within their own individualized vessels, and each light is what it is, and it doesn't have to become more than what it is. It is only when one light comes in contact with another light, and by dint of the fact that each and every light is singular in its essence, so too the pegisha and the confrontation and the encounter between those two lights, which are individualized in their own realm, when they encounter each other, there's going to be a conflict because one element of each light is going to be in discord with the other element of the light. Each light has its own particular point of individuality. And when those two points of individuality encounter with one another, so at first point there is a collision. That collision gives birth to a friction that creates a sparking, and it's that spark, that's hisnotzitzos, which is the awakening of the light. It forces the light to uncover more than that which it previously had to reveal, because it never had to encounter that which is in opposition to it. When it encounters something that it's in opposition with, when it's encountering the Ezer Kenegdo, so it forces itself to dig down deeper to retrieve new, hitherto unrevealed strengths from within its own self and reveal more so that it has the capacity to overcome this new prevention in its path that appears by way of something that stands in opposition to it. This hislahatus ha'oros, this betisha that takes place between one thing and the other, which gives birth to a collision that is always for the sake of revelation. Like we said in the name of Rav Menachem Mendel Shklov, that batash is bitachon, tova, and simcha, that it's a collision for the sake of revealing more. This is the birthplace of of the kalim, which are ultimately the secret of the middle that is devoid of the light of the beginning and the end, so that we can come to the depth of the secret of unity when we uncover the light within the vessel itself. In Shar HaAkudim, the development of the vessels takes place by way of the encounter, the pegisha, the hisnotzitzutz, the yichud b'derech haka'a, when two things collide together, revealing a third quality from within itself. It's all about hislahat sa'oros. And when the Ramchal is masbir, the inyan of machlokas and milchama for the sake of clarification and removing darkness and revealing light in the form of a milchama, the milchama is taking shape within the mind, and both parts of it are always singularly united. Machlokas for the sake of halacha, machlokas and sugya, machlokas and limud, machlokas and deos is ultimately always for the sake of revealing the secret of elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. So yes, there's always going to be the collision point that appears to be a point of disconnection, and it appears to be the disunity at the heart of two separate things. But nevertheless, when we come to the yichud of the batisha, of the haka'a, of the hislahatus ha'oros, of the sha'ashua minei ubei, so we come to understand that machlokas is always l'shem shamayim. As Rabbi Nachman explains in Torah Samach Daled, that the entirety of existence is ultimately part and parcel of the singular machlokas at the heart of the Tanaim, the machlokas of Shammai and Hillel, kol yamai hit gadalti bein hachachamim, that it's specifically in between the opinions of the chachamim, in that place of the collision between two separate things that gives birth to a new thing. So now the Ramchal has taught us that the encounter of thinking for the sake of clarification, whether it be by limud, whether it be by way of yichudim, whether it be by way of emunah, trying to uncover more of Hashem's light in our conscious frame, which is what the hisgalus of Ima b'toch Malchus is, what the entirety of this sefer is drawing down this illuminated light of Gan Eden into our minds so that we can actually experience it. So we know that we're about to enter into this place of thought where when I'm trying to clarify something, when it comes to elukus, when it comes to ruchnias, when it comes to understanding halacha, when it comes to knowledge of what the tzaddik said or what this tzaddik was saying, and how we deal with the stira between these two tzaddikim, etc., all of the lima Torah and the machlokas hapoiskim and the lamdus and the difference in svara that is applied to each and every sugya in Torah itself and in the life of each and every yid, which is also Torah. There are infinite ways and frames in which we confront the phenomenological livedness by way of framing our minds. And so we know we're going to encounter a collision, but the Ramchal is now teaching us about the weapons of the mind. Thinking is the place of the battle, but the battle is fundamental. The concealment on the truth is also fundamental to the development of the truth. The question is as significant as the answer. In fact, it might be even more significant than the answer itself, because the question is the engine that drives thought, and it's not the outcome of thought that is necessarily the end-all be-all when it comes to limud haTorah, but rather, or derech emunah or derech hayichud, but rather it is the playfulness of thought and the process of thought itself, including the kushya and the teretz. As Rabbi Nachman says, that kasha is Rosh Tevos Shma Hashem Koili Ekra, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hear me, I cry out. So the Ramchal now is going to be masbir to us the weapons that the Chavraya girded themselves with for this battle of the mind, for this development of a group of individuals who are seeking out a specific spiritual task for each and every individual within themselves, and unconscious connections, conscious connections. We're all trying to do the same thing. We're trying to be Megala Kvod Shchinta Kadisha. We're trying to do for the sake of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to reveal his kavod down here, not for our physiological selves, not for our spiritual selves, but ultimately to reveal the nitzotz of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's mislabish within each and every heart and each and every yid that comes about when we connect ourselves to that which is most fundamental, simple, and true in our lives, which is the Emunah Kolzos, the Derech Emunah Bacharti. And so the weapons of the mind that are going to be necessary are the weapons of how we encounter reality and how do we develop through the lens of Yechudim and taking my thoughts seriously and realizing that the Olam HaMachshava is a real thing and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is found in the Machshava, and that thinking for the sake of thinking is ultimately part and parcel of encountering the secret unity of the Seichel, the Maskil, and the Muskal, that within my thought process I am both surrounding and surrounded by the infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that in the place of thought, the machshava is bariru, and that thought is a real thing, because when we're mevatel ourselves in our minds, we draw down an infinite light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to learn how to take the framework of our thinking seriously. The history of Yiddishkeit can be described as well in the history of thinking and different forms of thinking, and pre-lumdis, prior to lumdis, pre-chasidis, post-chasidis, the way that the Arizal has been understood. They're all phenomenological lenses through which a person thinks about reality. And this is taking place in the mind of each and every Yid as well. So the Zohar HaKadosh says, is kanshu Nikdishu Chavraya Lebe Idra. The Chavraya Kadisha entered into the house of the Idra. Milubashin Shiryan, they were garbed in their armor. Saife Verim Chabiyada, they had their weapons in their hands. Izdarazu Betichunaychan, and they prepared themselves to encounter the tikkunim which are the battles which are the concealments for the sake of revelation. So now what the Ramchal is going to explain to us is three weapons of the mind that each of us have access to. It's going to be the roimach of the mind, the spear of the mind, the cherev of the mind, the sword of the mind, and the kitra of the mind. The keshet of the mind, the bow and arrow of the mind. Then there's going to be the secret of the kitra of the mind, of the slingshot of the mind. So there are going to be four weapons that are going to be described in the Zohar Kadosh as the Chavraya gathering themselves together and getting ready for the tikkunim that they were going to engage in. The four weapons described are the spear, the sword, the bow and arrow, and the slingshot. Now, these four weapons of the mind are going to correspond to the elements of Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, and its connection to Yesod, and Malchus itself. The Romach is going to be the secret of Chesed, the Cherev is going to be the secret of Gevura, the Keshet is going to be the secret of Tiferes and Yesod, and the Kitra is going to be the secret of Malchus. And these four elements represent Yehudim and Shemos and ways of harnessing the power of the mind, but they also represent frames of thinking and coping mechanisms and ways of grappling with concealment. And so Be'ezras Hashem, we're going to go in to these particular weapons for now, and then the Ramchal is going to take the kitra, he's going to take the slingshot, which was used by David and by Moshe, David to kill Goliath, and the stones of Kriya Shema, and the 5 stones that are taken from the Nachal, and the Ramchal is going to take that to the next level. So right now we're just going to describe the baseline levels of these weapons of the mind, the Chesed, the Gevura, the Tiferes, the Yesod, and the Malchus of the mind that we encounter when we're trying to cultivate an awareness of God in this world to cut through the thicket of forgetfulness and concealment. Sagt der Heilige Ramchal und Daf Samach Tes. V'hu yalkut misham ma sheyalkut b'koyrech ha-romach. What a person first and foremost does is they gather together all of their knowledge, all that they have, and the way that they gather together the knowledge that is accessible to them is by way of the romach, by way of the romeach, by way of the spear that is in their hands. Ka'asher yislabesh b'shiryan v'rumchai. This means that the Chavraya Kadisha, the Tanaim, all of us, we gird ourselves and we dress ourselves in the armor and we arm ourselves with our spears. And it's very important that we don't forget about the spear and we don't let go of it. The spear is fundamental in ensuring that we have the ability of just gathering together all of the knowledge, all of the nekudos tovos that we have. It's the place where we're able to ensure that which we do have. It's not focusing on our deficiencies. The romach is the secret of love and kindness and the secret of Reish Mem Ches, the 248 mitzvos aseh. It's about connectivity. It's about gathering together. By the strength of my weapons, I have all of this reservoir of goodness. I can't forget it and I can't let go of it. And this is what the Yenuka and the Zohar Kadosh says to Rabbi Eliezer, the son of Rabbi Shimon. So stay, and I can smell, I can see the roimech, I can see the secret of the roimech, the spear that helps gather together spirituality. And when a person uses the roimach of the mind, the spear of the mind, which is not a weapon for the sake of battle, but it's a weapon for the sake of showing my strength. It's the strength of the mind that has the ability to gather together all of the words of the tzadikim and the tanayim and the psukim hakadoshim that I've learned throughout my life, and the knowledge that the letters of the Aleph Beis and the particular permutations of those psukim, mishnayos, gemaros, midrashim, svarim, hakadoshim, they've crossed the threshold of my mind. I have to gather together the irreducible trace of those letters upon which the tzimtzum is not chal, and therefore they're never erased, and I have to gather together that Aleph Beis, and I mark my territory with my roimach. That has my ability. When I knock it down on the ground, I have the ability of gathering together all of the 248 bones and all of the 248 positive mitzvos. What I do at that point is when I mark my territory and I gather together all of the foreign knowledge that is there, but I don't have a grasp on it. I know I learned it once upon a time. I don't know how to access it. I know I can think that way about myself, but I don't know how to actualize it. The Reimach is the ability to mark my territory and to truly stand ground and to draw down those lights in an intense way. And the secret of the Reish Mem Ches, 248. What's Reish Mem Ches? It's Ches Pa Mem Kel. It's 8 times 31, 8 times the Shem Kel, which is the secret of Chesed. Chesed Kel Kol Hayom, the goodness inherent with all things, the goodness inherent across the the board of all of the 8 levels of experience, which correspond to the death of the 8 kings of Edom, which are the broken places. So we have to be mamtik it and fix it with 8 levels of positivity each and every moment to judge the world favorably with the secret of the Roimach, which is the secret of the Ramach Evarim, which is the secret of the 248 positive mitzvos, which are rooted in love, which is why 8 times 31 is the gematria of 248, which is the secret of Avraham. Avraham is the secret of Kale. It's the weapon of the mind that gathers together by way of strength. It's chesed. V'chein reish mem ches, soidoi reish yud vav shehem gimel ab. And reish mem ches, 248, is the secret of 216, which is the gematria of Gevura, but at the same point, it could be divided into 3, which is 3 times chesed, 3 times 72, gives birth to 216, which is the semblance of the strength of Gevura, which is rooted in this loving, surrounding willingness to believe in what I have, which demands strength, but it's still a strength rooted in positivity. In addition to this 216, which is the 3 times chesed, when I orient myself to the chesed on each side of me, so then I connect myself to my heart, which is lamed beis nesivos chachma, meaning to say that I'm preparing myself to accept myself with chesed and to see my ability to say yes to myself and to believe in my knowledge and to believe that I have the skills necessary to start the process of growth. And then I draw all of that down, that reish yud vav, with gevura, because it's still a weapon, but nevertheless, it's a weapon of love and connectivity. And I draw it down to the lave, which is the secret of the lamed beis nesivos chachma, which is the lot of every yid, that every yid is ultimately receiving the Torah from Har Sinai at every moment, and every yid is Ruach HaKodesh at every moment. And that gives us 216 plus 32, which is 248, which is the Roimach, which is the spear. And it has the secret of Arnon, which is the secret of the Roimach of Arnon, the spear of Arnon, or Nun, is the secret of the light, which is Chachma, and the Nun, which is Bina. So what we're doing with the spear of the mind is utilizing the strength to believe in ourselves enough to draw and collect upon the experiences that we've had and the knowledge that we've cultivated, in spite of the fact that we don't have access to it right now, to gird ourselves with a strength, but a strength that is rooted not in a violent seeking out of destruction, but rather an interiorization and ingathering of the strength that I have, but I haven't actualized yet. And I do that by slamming the spear on the ground, and I collect all of that intensity around me, and I come to a place where I can feel good about myself, where I have something to show. I have a knowledge rooted. I have the ability to say that I have lamed beis nesivos chachma. I can enter in and answer the kushios as well. And the kavanah should be that when I draw down the reish yud vav, the gevura that comes about by finding the nekudos tovos of the ayin beis, which is the secret of the gematria of chesed. If I could see chesed to the right of me, chesed to the middle, and chesed to the end, I could see it at the beginning, the middle, and the end, to the right, to the center, and to the left. I take chesed 3 times. I have that gevura of the self. This is kabrus ha'atzmius, this love and appreciation of self, which is 216, and I connect it to my heart, which is 32, and I come out with my spear. And when I knock my spear on the ground, what I'm trying to do in that belief system is break free from the sitra achra, from the other side that tells me that I'm unworthy and that I can't do it. And then I enable myself to start working with the sword as well, which it's going to see, as well as the keshet, as well as the bow and arrow, as well as the slingshot, the hakol bizmanu b'shai. So each weapon is going to be used in its time, but they're all dependent on the roimach. It's all dependent on the radical affirmation of self that comes about by seeing chesed kel kol hayom, and looking up, down, left, right, inside, outside, out, external and internal, the 8 times kale, seeing the light of chesed everywhere, and drawing down the unity of chachma and bina, which is the arnon. Then I'm going to have the ability to enter into all of the other weapons. And I'm going to explain to you, says the Ramchal, what these weapons of the mind are, and the way that a person is going to be able to access and utilize these weapons, and when the time calls upon it. So the first weapon is going to be the spear, any person who wants to enter into Kedusha has to hold on to this spear in their hands. Anybody who prepares themselves to enter into the battle of being worthy, because like we said, the spear is the collecting by way of strength to be confident about my goodness, to find the 3 times chesed to the right, to the left, and to the center, in every part of myself, to see chesed, 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 to see the koyach that I have in me from Avram Avinu, to radically affirm my confidence in myself, not based on myself, but on the basis of Magen Avram, that when a person comes in front of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in Shemona Esrei, we're not just saying our yichus, we're not just saying who we know, we're not just saying the friends that we have in high places. We're saying Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I'm a ben of Avram, and if I'm a ben of Avram, I have the koyach of the remech of that spear of 248 of that non-dying love and radical affirmation of the self, which is the secret of the kum va'aseh. Without that, I don't have anything. It's the first weapon necessary that a person has to hold in their hands anytime they prepare themselves to stand their ground in battle. Because this is how I gather light into myself. If I don't have a baseline level of understanding of my soul strength in the secret of the kum va'aseh, which is rooted in the secret of ahava, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me and I love him. But when a person is not able to retrieve that bare minimum of goodness and that undeniable and irreducible element of self-confidence, if a person can't access it through the roimach, then they have to hit the roimach on the ground again. They have to hit their spear on the ground again each time to awaken that secret of love, to awaken that secret of the confidence that a person has to have in themselves. And without this, meaning to say the aspect of the roimach, the aspect of the spear, which is the element of chesed connected to Avram, tzarich lahamshich koyach gevura kedei lachnia hasitra achra hamitchazeket listom besod hakushios. Ki ze eno inyan chisaron hahasaga shelo yuchlu lahasig laechos elo zeu situm le'eza sad prati va'az yitzarich laharik. So now the Ramchal is introducing us to the second weapon. The weapon of the spear is there to reveal that which is always present. And I have to shake myself with confidence to uncover the secret of chesed kel kol hayom, the 8 times 32, the 8 times 31, and the 216 plus 32, which both give us the ramach, which is the spear of confidence, which allows me to gather together my nekudas tovos and the secret of the good things that I've done and that I'll continue to do in the secret of od yoter tov. And I have to continuously hit it upon the ground to awaken myself. But then there's another type of concealment. Let's say the concealment is not the result of I haven't yet gathered together my strength. Let's say I've gathered together my strength. I've prepared myself to be Ana Zamin Lameheve. I'm the one, Hashem. I'm the one who's going to stand at the brink. I'm the one who's going to go into battle. And each and every Yid says this. Each and every Yid is the Asniel ben Kanaz who goes in to the Yamsuf first and foremost, and it opens up for each and every one of us. And the water goes up to our neck each and every time. And each and every one of us have to have the power and the confidence to enter into battle. But let's say when we enter into battle and we enter into the willingness to be an Eved Hashem who's going to fight for the Shekhinah today, who's going to fight to reveal Higalena Kvod Shemayim down here in this Dir B'Tachtonim, in this Ashba of a place, in Eretz Yisrael Mamish, in this ground level Asiya Sheba Asiya, when a person accepts upon themselves the responsibility of revealing the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to themselves, to the Welt, to each and every fabric of existence that we find ourselves encountering. So there's also going to come a time where we still feel concealment. And it's not just going to be the lack of self-confidence. What happens when there's actual concealment? And I've already utilized my spear to awaken the pre-existent love and belief that I have in myself. Let's say there's a new type of concealment. As the Ramchal says, there's a new type of concealment that has to be removed. Milvad zeh, aside from the roimach, which is the belief in self, tzarich lahamshich koyach gevura, a person also has to uncover the strength of severity within themselves. And yes, there was a severity inherent with the spear and the secret of the reish yud vav, which is the gematria of gevura, which is the 3 times chesed. But that's the gevura that it takes to say yes to oneself. That's not the true koyach of gevura, which is the ability to say no to something. But tzarich lahamshich koyach gevura, we also have to draw down the koyach of gevura, the tzad of Yitzchak Avinu, kedei lahachnia hasitra achra, to mamish get rid of the sitra achra. That once given permission, HaKadosh Baruch Hu allows concealment to really cover over things to the degree that we feel that something is missing. And that's the secret of the kushios. Those are the questions that a person encounters. It's not just the lack of belief in oneself. It's the questions that come to a person once they've decided to believe in themselves. This is not just a deficiency in grasp. It means it's not just a deficiency in grasp to the degree that I don't know my true strength. I've grasped that already. I've utilized the spear. But now there's a particular level of concealment applied to a particular expression of ruchnias, and I can't fully grasp it. And now I need the sword. The sword is very different. If the roimach is 248 and it's associated with chesed and the radical affirmation of self, the sword is the ability to cut things down into particularized elements, to break down the whole into composite parts, to utilize the gevura of Esav, which is al charbach, to cut into bite-sized manageable pieces, just like we learn by the secret of hamtakas adinim b'sharashim, by chewing the maror down to irreducible sizes or crushing up the ketoras dak min hadak, because sometimes the only way to tolerate the concealment is to grind it down so that it becomes momentary moments of concealment, like the medrash that the Vilna Gaon brings, or is brought in the name of the Gra in the beginning of Kol HaTur, that the king has to punish his son with stoning, but ultimately the king doesn't want to harm his son whatsoever, but he also has to allow the rule of law to be upheld. So the Chacham tells him, he says, nobody said you have to throw the rock all at once. So shatter the rock into a million little pebbles, and throw a million little pebbles slowly but surely over a long and healthy life of the son, and that way you're also going to be able to accomplish the Yisurin. In that way, the secret of Hamtakas Adinim is chewing it down and cutting it down. It's not only looking at the radical affirmation of everything good, it's being able to break down something to its particular parts to get to the core of it, not to be satisfied with the externality of the general image, but to descend down into the particularities of the particularities, to come to a place of living with each particular as if it's as significant as the whole itself. And that's the secret of the cherev. Shu hazayin ha'acher. The other weapon is the cherev. What does the cherev do? How does the cherev work for Rabbeinu Haramchal? B'tzarech ba'ado kavanos gedolos. A person has to have profound intentions when it comes to the cherev. And this is the secret of Maisem B'bitachon, the wooden sword. Because in truth the sword belongs to Esav, and that you live in accordance to your sword. Gevura is the place where sitra achra, where concealment gains its greatest strength, because gevura is something that is a motivating process of expression, which by definition is rooted in a prior moment of concealment. And in that moment of concealment, that's where the sitra achra, that's where the other side seems to gain its strength, because it gives a momentary sense that there's an absence in the world. Rahman al-Itzlan. But we have to steal the sword from the hand of Esav. And the sword has to become a sword laHashem. And then we take the sword from Esav, and it stops trying to be the separation, the churban between the head and the heart, but it becomes a sword against concealment. And immediately, when a person takes something from the other side and draws it into kedusha, it takes shape in the secret of the shape of the Shem Havaya, and that's the secret of the shape of the sword. The Yud is the Reisha the Charva. The Yud of the Shem Havaya is the tippy top of the sword. The Vav is the Gufa the Charva. It is the body of the sword, and the two Heys, the Hey Ilah and the Hey Tata, are the train pios delay, are the two handles on each side of the sword. So you have the Shem Havaya. When a person contemplates the Shem Havaya, so you can contemplate the Yud is the tip of the sword. The first Hey is a handle of the sword. The Vav is the body of the sword, and the Hey is the other handle of the sword. And this is the secret of the Cherev Pipios. How does a person use this Cherev of the mind? To break the Nachash down into small, bite-sized parts, piece after piece. V'husod Gadol. This is a big secret. The Leshem has this. The Gra has this. The Ramchal is saying this is a big secret. The Baal Shem Tov has this. All of the secret of the Tchinas Hadinim, the crushing of the Dinim to make them manageable in their bite-sized, manageable quintessential expression, taking a dollar out of the pocket and only finding 99 cents. Daki cherev oila gezer. Cherev is the gematria of 210, which is the gematria of cutting. Ligzor yamsuf ligzerim, the secret of cutting the yamsuf into separate parts. V'sod zeh ki madregos shel sitra achra mitchabrim biyachad. What happens with concealment is that it gathers together with other elements of concealment to make itself feel unmanageable, while in truth, they're all manageable particulars of concealment, but when grouping together, they appear to be unmanageable. And then when this massive body of concealment, which is really just small particulars of concealment that have garnered the strength to gather themselves together to appear as one semblance of a whole, which is overwhelming, it creates a deep kitrug. And the first step is to bite the problem down in size, to break it down into bite-sized, manageable pieces, to cultivate sectionality, to be able to compartmentalize with the issue so that I can properly deal with Rishon, and Sheni. That's the secret of the Gevura of Kedusha that cuts apart the immensity of concealment, and the secret of Yispardu Kol Palayavan, that Kedusha comes to disperse the unity that Sitra Achra appears to hold in its moment, and to show that there's no real heaviness here, there's no real concealment, you can move forward. And when I call it for what it is, which is just a tiny, irreducible thing that I can throw away or learn to carry, so then it doesn't have the ability to conceal. And we have to know, the place that the Sitra Achra wants to grab hold of most intensely is the level of Vak, is the Chesed, Gvur, Tveres, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, the lower parts of Shem Havaya, in the secret of Cherev, Zeh, Mafridam Osam. And I'm able to stop the concealment from connecting itself in each area, so that it would become, if I have the concealment attacking me on my level of chesed and gvura and teferes and netzach and hod, then the whole system is lost, and I feel overwhelmed because I say, oh my gosh, the enemy is bigger. But in truth, it's only achuz on one particular level at each time, and once it's achuz on two levels, so I think, oh no, it's growing. But in truth, it's just another problem that has to be dealt with, and each problem in its own time, each problem in its own moment. The cherev keeps things what they are, ensuring that things don't become bigger than what they actually are, which is the power of anxiety. We clarify each level in accordance with its own level. Chesed is chesed, gvura is gvura, and avada, each one is contained of every other one, but don't get overwhelmed and don't make the problem bigger than it is. And there's no singular problem that a person can't deal with. So when each problem is sequestered into its private placing, so then it can be managed. And when a person is utilizing the sword of their mind, it has to go to each and every side. It has to go to chesed and gvura and teferes and netzach and hod and yesod. It has to go to the moichin of das, to the hey chasadim and the hey gvurus of das. And what a person has to do is ensure that this cherev of kedusha, which is the shem havaya, which is my ability to compartmentalize in manageable ways, to conceal the concealment so that it becomes something processable and manageable, I have to fill it with blood, fill it with dam de kedusha, in the secret of cherev lahashem malei dam, that the sword for God is filled with blood. What does it mean? The secret of being a human being is the secret of the Shem Havaya. That's B'malei Alfin, which is Yud Vav Dalid, Hey Aleph, Vav Aleph Vav, and Hey Aleph, the gematria of Adam, which is the gematria of 45, and that's Aleph Dam. And the Aleph, Tzarech La'asa, is La'asa, is Aleph Shabasech Shem Ma. And there's an Aleph in the Shem Ma, that when you take the Aleph of the Shem Ma, and you split the aleph up, and aleph is a vav, a yud, and a yud. And typically we have the slanted nature of the vav and the yud above and the yud below that are not parallel to one another, and therefore it's the shape of the aleph. But when looked at differently, if the vav is elongated and the yudin are on the bottom of it, so that's the two handles of the sword, and the aleph of the adam becomes the sword itself, and that has to be malei dam. The aleph of the adam has to become the sword, the cher of the shem havaya, the ability to cut through concealment in bite-sized manageable ways, and that becomes the secret of the shem ma. The aleph becomes the sword. And I also have to come to uncover that it's also this sword, which is a vav, yud yud, is also the gematria of chaf vav, which is the shem havaya. So there's going to be the gematria of ma and chaf vav, which is going to be the gematria of ayin, which is going to be the gematria of 70, as the Ramchal is going to say. This is the sword. V'tamale dam, this aleph of the sword, which is the vav yud yud, which is in the shape of a sword, and the gematria of chaf vav, it's going to be filled with blood, and it's going to be the secret of the shem ma. And then you have 45 plus 26, which is the gematria of 70, Ba'asa kol ayin, besod nikud shem elokim, which is the secret of the nikudos of the shem havaya in the orientation of elokim, which is the shurish of the dinim, which is the secret of the reimach, and the secret of all of the weapons of the mind, which come about by way of bina of the mind. And then a person has to draw down the samach pulse denura b'koichem to soivev lavak, and then when I draw down the 60 pulsations of the sword, which are the 60 swordsmen who protect the bed of Shlomo Melech, and the 60 Mesechtos of Shas, and then it's going to be 6 times 10, and each sphera of Vak, Chesed, and all of its 10 spheros, and Gevurah and all of its 10 spheros are now going to be addressed, each and every one individually, without becoming overwhelming problems. And then it's going to be Mesoivev the Vak, which becomes 60, because 6 times 10 is 60, and it's going to push away all of the Sitra Achra, the Ta'as Oisim, Chatichos, and it's going to cut it down into bite-sized manageable pieces. In the secret of Pizor L'Rishaim, it's the scattering of the Rishaim, which is good for the entire world and bad for the Rishaim, the lack of connectivity, and then when we break it down, then we'll be able to reveal the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the time that a person has to battle with this sword, when I'm grappling with a kasha on something that I thought I already knew. It's not a new kasha, no information has come to light. I'm rather grappling with what I've previously thought I knew, and now I'm coming to a place of feeling a concealment. That's where the cherev is most necessary. I have to cut through the concealment and the questions that are appearing upon the thing that I thought I already knew. It's the secret of the sword, which can only do battle by way of closeness, unlike the keshet, which can engage in battle from a distance. And if it's going to be a war of many, and if I'm in a chavrusa, or if I'm learning intensely, or I'm grappling with an idea with someone else, so I have to use the sword of my mind to cut through intensely with all of the kushios that are clarifying and clouding, rather, the halacha that I'm trying to bring out. The Alkein Amar Rav Abba Lahu Yenuka, and Rav Abba says to that Yenuka who smells on them that they didn't say Kriyat Shema yet, Hashanana Dechar V'Legabich Shasha'ale Be'inyan Atzmo Shehu Muikim Be'inyan Hateven V'Hamutz V'Shalu Eichiyah Be'eretz Yisrael. I don't know how to properly understand this in the context of what Rabbeinu Ramchal is saying, but it's in the Zohar Kadosh Chelik Gimel Daf Kaf Pei Tes Amud Aleph. I thought that it would come to me through the process of learning it, but I still don't know it. The Imbiad Bal Halacha Yakoach, but if the Bal Halacha has koach, Yashiv Kasher Hishiv Hayanuka. They'll have the ability to answer like the Yanuka answers we saw earlier, which is dependent on the strength. Etafko Magin Vitzina, and he opens up with the strength of the weapons. Va'azyakal Hakas Acherev Magin, and then the sword is going to hit the shield that's being used by the person who's arguing in the halacha, as we explained earlier, and the lights encounter each other in battle and in that lehita sa'iris, which is the secret of the milchama, the kedusha, and it creates the menucha and the shalom, which is the Torah and the chachma emerging out of itself without effort necessary. The only effort necessary will be to maintain calmness. So we have the spear, which is chesed, and we have the sword, which is gvura, and now we're going to have the bow and arrow, which is going to be the secret of Malchus from the aspect of Yesod, which is Yesod, and Yesod is always going to be connected to Teferes, so it's going to be the secret of Teferes. So we have the Raimach, the Cherev, and the Keshet are Chesed, Gvur, and Teferes, and the Kitra, the slingshot, is going to be the secret of Malchus. Acha Keshet or Benuk, but the secret of the Keshet, the secret of the bow and arrow, has the ability to clarify halacha in a more revealed way, in a more refined way. It has the ability of doing battle from far, not only close proximity like the Cherev. Aval mitzad hayesod, v'tzarich lizroik by gimel chitzim, and the arrows, there have to be 3 arrows, in the secret of ani shloishes hachitzim tzida oyer l'shalach li l'matara. The secret of the unity between David and Yehonasan and the sign that comes about by the shooting of the 3 arrows. These 3 vavin is going to be the secret of Chai Olamim, the secret of 18, the secret of 6 times 3, which is the secret of the Yesod itself and the Chut HaShedra and Shmona Esrei. But the Keshet, it first and foremost has to orient itself to firing off 3 forms of encounter, 3 arrows, in the secret of Ani Shloishes Hachitzim Tzida Oire L'Shalech Li L'Matara. Ki HaKeshet Soid HaYesod. Because the bow and arrow is the secret of the Yesod. And in the Yesod comes down the light that's Or Zerul Tzaddik, and the secret of the Or Mayim and Rakia and the Kuf Birchen, which is the emergence and the congealment of light from the irreducible place above down to the concealment below, so that it can be congealed in a particular expression of the Or Zerul Tzaddik Ulishrodev Simcha. Those are the 3 arrows that come down in the secret of Chachma Bin and Das, the 3 Maychen that are being nimshach in any zivug, in any moment of the Yesod being mamshech or lamata. The tzarich lachazik hakeshes biyoter, and the bow and arrow has to be strengthened. The person has to be able to hold back the bow and arrow, and they have to be able to maintain name shnei vavin, and the bow and arrow are going to be the 2 vavs, the soidim yesoid of teferes. Like we said, the bow and arrow is going to be the 2 parts of the vav, which is not only yesod but it's teferes as well. So we can say that the spear is chesed, that the sword is gevura, and that the bow and arrow is Tiferes, and Yesod. The Gimel Tikin Yordim Sham, and the three drops, the three Yudin emerge outwards. The Haim Yud Achas Betlos Kutzin, and every Yud has a top, a middle, and a bottom. And so too, these three Yudin are B'Shoyrasham, as Ramchal explains elsewhere in Ma'amar HaReusin, and this deep secret of Arimas Yada B'Slusan, of the three Yudin becoming one Yud and the one Yud becoming three Yudin. But this secret is where it's going to be the third Yud, and then you have three, and then you're going to have three Vavin. You're going to have the three Vavim, which are 18, plus, and you're going to have Ba'asim Chaf Beis. I'm sorry, so you have Shnei Vavim, which is 12, and you have Gimel Tipin, which is 15. Vanasa Kol Vav. Okay, I'm making a mistake here. Let me start over. You know what? We're going to pause on the Keshet, Amir Hashem, and we're going to start with the Keshet and the Kitra either this week or next week, Be'ezras Hashem.